Welcome to part 2 in this Learning Watchmaking video series featuring Omega's in-house caliber 1020. In the first video, we did an assessment of the watch under the microscope and disassembled and cleaned all of the movement parts. In this video, I'll show you step by step how the movement gets reassembled. The steps I follow are more or less the same for Omega's 1010, 11, and 12 date-only movements and their caliber 10, 20, 21, and 22 day plus date versions. For the most part, I'll be following the order of assembly recommended in Omega's technical guide for these movements, which is widely available as a free download online. Please take a moment to click the like button on this video and subscribe to be notified when part 3 of this series goes live, and for more horology enthusiast content. Let's get started. With the parts clean, the first step will be replacing the second center pinion. Second as in this is what the second hand attaches to. I'm placing a small amount of my lightest watchmaking oil, Mobius 9010, on the pinion under the collar. This friction spring keeps the pinion in place and provides a small amount of pressure to help the second hand revolve more smoothly. We can now install the wheel train. I'll start with the fourth wheel and then move on to the third wheel, second wheel, and escape wheel. This plastic piece is called the stop lever, or hack. Its job is to stop the watch from running when you pull the winding stem out to the setting position so you can precisely set your watch to the exact second. The train wheel bridge is then carefully lowered into place. This can be a fiddly task as you have to line up all of the pivots on the wheels, making sure the bridge plate also aligns with the guideposts on the main plate. For this operation, gravity is your friend, and if you push down too hard, you can easily break the delicate pivots. In my experience, the better a watch's manufacturing quality is, the easier it is to align the bridges and the pivots. This watch, so far, is going together very easily. Always double check that everything is running smoothly before doing your final tightening down on the bridge plate. A quick check on the dial side of the movement, and we can see that the pivots are properly seated in their jewels. While we're here, I'm going to lubricate each pivot. Lubrication is an essential part of servicing a watch, and as the saying goes, less is more. Throughout this video, you'll see me regularly use 3 different types of lubricant: a lightweight oil, a medium weight oil, and a heavier grease. Fast-moving, small parts get the lightweight oil, slow speed, high pressure, and larger parts get the grease, and the medium weight HP 1300 oil gets used on everything in between. After cleaning my oiler, I'm rotating the train of wheels to work in the lubricant. And testing each wheel to see if it has the proper amount of movement or end shake in its jewel. Any excess oil gets dabbed off with a piece of Rodico putty. At this point, I'm planning on reusing the mainspring. I'll show you how I manually clean it with isopropyl alcohol and then lubricate it with a fine film of Mobius 8200, which is a light grease designed for mainsprings. I'm putting a small amount on a piece of watchmaker's tissue paper, and then I'll run it along the entire length of the spring by holding the paper in my tweezers. Then I'll prepare the mainspring barrel with a few dots of Mobius 8213, also called braking grease. In an automatic watch, the sides of the mainspring barrel are lubricated so the spring can slip when fully wound to prevent the rotor and winding gears from applying too much torque to the spring, possibly breaking it. To wind the spring, I'll use my Bergeon mainspring winders, choosing a winder that fits into this watch's mainspring barrel. This is a well-made Swiss set with 5 generic size winders to fit most watches. Unfortunately, the arbor that goes with the number 7 winder is much too thick for the center coil of my mainspring. Feeling creative, I tried using my number 5 arbor with the size 7 winder, and things didn't go so well. Oh, slipping out. Can I recover? Nope. Oh. It's trying to get out. It's trying to get out. No, it's out. Can we unwind in a controlled way? No. Oh. Part of the mainspring just went that way. With the new mainspring on order, we can turn our attention to the barrel bridge. These are the parts that make up the wigwag wheel, which wobbles back and forth to allow you to manually wind the watch. The locking nut goes onto the back of the barrel bridge in this groove. I'll hold it in place with a piece of Rodico while I flip the bridge and attach the pinion from the other side. Bad idea. The lock nut decided to have a cuddle with my Rodico. Let's try it another way. As it turns out, a little downward pressure was all that was needed to keep the nut in its slot while I stacked the washer and wigwag pinion and attached it with the screw. I'm applying the blue grease to the sliding surfaces and making micro adjustments to the screw so the wigwag pinion turns freely and travels in the slot easily without flopping around. This is the wigwag pinion spring, which gets attached to the main plate with a screw. Attaching the screw loosely makes it easy to put the spring in place. When the barrel bridge gets reinstalled, this spring presses against the tip of the wigwag pinion screw, keeping the teeth of the wigwag pinion engaged with the ratchet wheel when you turn the winding stem in the clockwise direction. You'll see it in action in just a little bit. Since my new mainspring hasn't arrived yet, I'll temporarily reattach the barrel bridge without the barrel so I can more easily install the setting wheel and crown wheel. I'm pre-lubricating the posts and sliding surfaces with my 9501 grease. This is the setting wheel ring. The setting wheel is put in place and screwed down firmly. And now the crown wheel can be installed. Hey, lucky drop. Guess what came in the mail? If you said new mainspring, then give yourself a pat on the back. While it took a little over a week to get the part from cousins in England, the cost of this aftermarket spring was less than $10 US. If you're going to mess up a part in a vintage watch, the mainspring might be the most affordable component to replace. With the colored side of the washer facing up in most cases, the new spring can easily be pressed into the barrel. Right now I'm holding the arbor in a pin vise, and there's the hook right there. So with the hook pointing away from me, let's see if we can get it in where it has to go. Even though new springs are pre-lubricated, I feel better wicking a few drops of my lightweight oil into the coils. I'm also putting a drop of oil on the collar of the arbor where it meets the lid. I picked up this tool early on in my watchmaking journey. It's a simple device that lets you snap the lid back onto a mainspring barrel with even pressure. With the new mainspring in the barrel, sometimes called a barrel complete, we can now remove the bridge, put a drop of oil on the lower pivot, and reinstall the barrel bridge, taking care that everything meshes and turns smoothly. I can now check the barrel arbor for end shake and apply a small amount of oil to the square end of the arbor. Now I just noticed that is not engaging. See that? The friction spring for the center second pinion has shifted and needs to be reseated on top of that collar. I think I can do this without having to disassemble any components. I'll loosen the screw, put a small dot of my lightweight oil on the pinion collar, and move the spring back into place, tightening it down. Perfect. Let's install the click spring and the click, which keeps the ratchet wheel from turning backward, releasing the power from the mainspring. The click spring is carefully loaded into the main plate. I'm using tweezers and a plastic probe to coax it into place, being careful not to launch it into parts unknown. Now the ratchet wheel is dropped into place and aligned with the square post on the barrel arbor, where it's attached with a large screw. You'll need to hold the ratchet wheel steady to keep it from spinning when you tighten it down. A small drop of medium weight oil is placed on the click post. The click is put into place with a little more oil. The excess lubricant is blotted up with a piece of Rodico putty before screwing the click in place. The click needs to engage the spring and turn freely, but with the screw tightened down, okay, that's not budging. It wouldn't move. This is going to require further investigation. I think we figured it out. Let's snug that down. And now with that snug, do we still have motion? Yes. So what happened? Well, remember these 3 gears? This one over here had the screw that works here. So I'm assuming we can now get this back together with the screw that was on the click. And they looked so similar to each other. Okay, we've got spin there, and we have ratchet action. We do. Let's clean and install the pallet fork. Since the ruby pallet stones are held in place with shellac, which can melt when heated, I did not put this part in my heated ultrasonic cleaner. So I'll clean it in a solvent called One Dip, which instantly dissolves oil and surface grime. There's a good look at the shellac that holds the pallet stones in place. I'm going to try to dip just the tips of the pallet jewels in this liquid called Fix-A-Drop. Fix-A-Drop forms a thin skin on parts which keeps lubricants from spreading to where they're not supposed to. My aim here is to only get the Fix-A-Drop liquid on the tips of the pallet stones, so when we apply oil, it will stay in place. The Fix-A-Drop needs to dry for about 10 minutes. The part is so small that I couldn't really see where the liquid was going, so I'm using a piece of pithwood to wipe off any of the dried liquid that may have gotten on the pivots. Over time, the thin residue could flake off of the pivots, fouling the smooth operation of the pallet fork. The pallet fork gets placed into its jewel on the main plate, and then the pallet bridge is carefully positioned on top, taking care to align the upper jewel with the pivot and the mounting posts and screw holes that are on the main plate. With a small wind in the mainspring, and if everything's correctly installed, then the pallet fork will snap decisively back and forth, advancing the escape wheel 1 tooth at a time. We're almost ready to reinstall the balance wheel to see if this watch is running. This is one of the most exciting moments in watchmaking. In preparation, let's clean, oil, and reinstall the cap jewel for the balance pivot back into the main plate. The flat cap jewel and the jewel with the pivot hole in it, simply called the hole jewel, is cleaned in one dip. These parts are so small that surface tension can easily make them stick to your tools, so keep a close eye on them. Come on. I'm cleaning the cap jewel under the microscope with some pegwood, and oh no, where did it go? I was looking through the scope and it completely disappeared from my view. Here's a look at it jumping from a different camera. It didn't go far, but it shows how easily these parts can go flying. Rubbing the jewel between a flat part of my pegwood and the post-it paper gets off any traces of remaining oil. The goal now is to place a small drop of lightweight oil in the center of the jewel, covering between 50 and 75% of the surface. The whole jewel then gets mated with the oiled cap jewel, and the cleaned and oiled assembly gets returned to the main plate and secured with its shock spring. There we go. Why don't we put a little bit more wind in it? With some power in the mainspring, we're ready to bring this watch back to life. She runs. Let's fasten down the balance cock and prepare the cap jewel for reinstallation. I'm going to remove the balance one more time so I can apply Mobius 9415 grease to the tip of the exit pallet stone that we pre-treated with the Fix-A-Drop. The goal is to place a tiny dollop of lubricant on the flat face of the stone and then advance the escape wheel 5 teeth.
3, 4, 5.
Then you apply some more grease, advance another 5 teeth, and reapply for a third and final time. There's a small amount of excess which I'll pick up with my Rodico on a stick. Let's assemble the keyless works, or as Omega calls it, the winding mechanism. The keyless works switches the watch between running/winding position, date setting, and time setting when you move the crown and stem in and out. I'll almost exclusively be lubricating with my heavy 9501 blue grease. This is the sliding clutch, or clutch wheel. The end with the slanted teeth faces out to engage the winding pinion, which has matching teeth on one side. For now, I'm going to slide the winding stem in dry to hold everything in place. It will get lubricated when I recase the watch. Next is the setting lever. This is the piece with a button that we push from the other side of the movement to release the winding stem. As parts go in, I like to move them around to see which areas require lubrication. This is my first Omega service, and I've noticed that the matte finish on the parts and main plate often looked dirty where oil had previously been placed. I don't know if this was a shortcoming of my cleaning process or if it's simply something that looks worse under the microscope. To my naked eye, everything looks great, so I'm going to continue. If I put down too much grease, I can dab it up with Rodico or move it to other places where I know it will be needed. This arm is called the yoke, and it moves the sliding clutch when the stem is pushed in or pulled out. This part is also a type of yoke, called the date corrector yoke. As you may have guessed, it changes the date wheel. As the parts are placed on the main plate, it's easier to see where they contact each other and where you need to place grease to keep the mechanism running smoothly. This spring for the date corrector yoke is quite sturdy, and I'm using a two-hand approach so I don't accidentally send it flying. This is the setting lever spring. In addition to acting as springs, some of these components also act as cover plates to contain the components below them. I like to partially screw down these components, adjust the parts that are under tension, and then fully tighten them down once everything's in place.
Come on.
This is the yoke spring, on which I'm also using a two-handed approach.
Oh.
It didn't want a seat on my first try, so I'm glad I still had a grip on it when it popped out of place. This is the pressure spring for the setting lever, and it also acts as a cover plate, securing the yoke and the yoke spring below it.
Hey, we have positions. Let's get some of our favorite grease on the hot spots. We'll do a quick cleanup. If we did our job correctly, it should wind.
Let's get our balance back in place. It looked like everything was positioned correctly, but the balance wheel was not dropping down into its pivot. I'm going to remove it so I can take a closer look. That looks like the stop lever, and it appears to be interfering with the balance wheel. It's not pivoting or moving out of the way when you push in the winding stem. I think this is related to the post on the date corrector yoke that I called your attention to in video 1.
There it is.
There's a hole in the plastic stop lever that the post on the date corrector yoke needs to pass through. You can now see the stop lever moving in tandem with the yoke. After a quick check to make sure everything is engaging correctly, we can flip the movement over .
Got it. So now it's out of the way. I guess that lands on the side of the balance wheel. That would make sense.
What do you think, folks? Will she go?
All right. That's what we're looking for. So let's see what happens if we pull this out now. Yep, there it is. That little plastic piece just comes out, touches the balance wheel, push it in, and there she goes.
This is the center wheel with its friction fit cannon pinion. It was cleaned, but the cannon pinion won't rotate or come off with my tweezers for a more thorough cleaning and oiling.
We need something a little bit more robust. So I'm going to try this Bergeon hand pulling tool, but I don't want to bend the wheel underneath. So I'm going to put him right on my work surface. I need something to hold down the wheel so I don't distort it. I have a plastic drill guide, which just has a whole bunch of holes in it. I'm going to try to use that. We'll place the plastic shield over the wheel. I'm having a tough time. Well, I could try my more robust tweezers. Let me just give that a try real quick. Son of a gun, that's really on there. Well, while we have it pinned down, see if I can sneak some oil in there just to help break the bond. That cannon pinion should be rotating. We'll let that work its way in. Yeah, it's not even spinning. Well, we're going to put this back in the bin. I think I'll give this a soak in one dip, see if we can break the bond of whatever oil may be in there. Let's give that a try. So let's see if we can find an appropriately sized pin vise. Similar to what we did before, we're going to use this guide as a hold down. Yep, there it is. Well, that was quite dramatic. We'll give this a more thorough cleaning. Let's see if we can get just a little bit of oil on this part. So now the question is, will we get motion? Yeah. There we go. Oh, that's not the motion we wanted. Double click. Yeah, that's definitely on there. It's turning. Good.
This watch has another cannon pinion called the cannon pinion of the third wheel. It pressure fits onto the shank of the third wheel, which you can see coming through the main plate. It engages the teeth of the center wheel that we just serviced, transferring motion from the train wheel side of the watch to the dial side. Let's install the parts that change the day and date. This is the date indicator driving wheel. Again, it helps to temporarily place a part so you can see where it needs lubrication. This is the cam for the date indicator driving wheel. That finger goes into the curved slot. And this is the Daystar driving wheel. It also has a little post that engages with the cam below it. If you stack this assembly and loosely fit the screw, it's easier to get everything to drop into place. I'm putting medium weight oil on the main plate center tube before installing the center wheel, ensuring that it meshes with the small cannon pinion of the third wheel. The minute wheel goes onto this post, making sure the teeth engage with the leaves of the larger cannon pinion. The double date setting wheel is placed upon its post. The cannon pinion gets some lubrication, and the hour wheel is dropped into place. I'm checking periodically to make sure all of the wheels are engaged and nothing is binding. This is the date jumper and date jumper spring. That elbow snaps in between the teeth on the date wheel, centering the date numbers in the window on the dial. I'll pre-assemble the day corrector wheel into the keyhole slot on the calendar guard plate. I want a very thin and even application of grease only on the tips of the teeth of the date wheel. I'll use this piece of pegwood as an applicator.
Just ever so slightly, grease right on the tips.
Now the date wheel and guard can drop into place. Holding the date corrector under tension through the access port makes aligning everything relatively easy. Now is the time to make sure the date wheel is setting and that it turns over when the watch hits midnight.
There's our midnight. Good.
This is the day corrector spring, which applies light pressure to the teeth of the day corrector star wheel.
Oh, what was that? Static electricity? Kind of gives you an idea of just how light these parts are.
I'll place a little blue grease on the post for the day wheel, which is officially called the Daystar and Dial disc. It gets fastened in place with the Daystar guard and what might be the smallest screws in this movement. With the date wheels attached and the movement still out of the case, now is a great time to regulate the watch on the time grapher to see how close we can come to keeping perfect time in a variety of positions. You can see the steps I took in detail in my companion video, Regulating a Watch with a Time Grapher, which features this movement. I'll put a link above. The last step in reassembling this Omega Caliber 1020 movement is to rebuild and install the automatic winding unit. There's an upper and lower bridge that houses these four wheels. Generally speaking, the wheels drop into the lower bridge with their larger pinions pointing down. The first wheel in is the driving gear that turns the ratchet wheel, which winds the mainspring. Next, I'll position the large connecting pinion for the winding wheel, followed by the small connecting pinion. This double-decker wheel is the winding gear. The upper bridge is carefully aligned with the pivots below, and with a bit of help from gravity, it settles into place. The simplicity of design and how easily this module went back together is a testament to Omega's commitment to quality machining, even at this model's more modest price point. I'll lubricate all of the pivots.
Hey, you missed one.
Oh, be quiet, I'll get it later. I'll work in the oil, making sure the wheels are turning smoothly and that the driving gear winds in the same direction regardless of which way I turn the large connecting pinion. The auto winding assembly can now be installed on the movement, carefully sliding the driving gear under the ratchet wheel and settling the automatic winding unit onto its posts, where it can then be secured with a pair of screws. I'm putting a few dots of blue grease on the sliding surface where the intermediate connecting pinion for the rotor will go. This pinion has a square cutout that mates with the large connecting pinion. A little blue grease goes on the inside of the post on which we'll mount the automatic winding rotor. Here's a look at the post and pinion under the weighted rotor. With the rotor dropped into place, we secure it by sliding in the banking ring, which gets attached with this broadhead screw. With the winding rotor in place and turning freely, we can call the assembly of this movement complete. Please join me for part 3 of this Omega series, where we'll replace the dedicated OEM bracelet, refinish the acrylic crystal, and recase the watch. I'm Mike. Thank you for joining me. Be sure to like and subscribe and leave your comments and questions in the space below. See you on the next one.